Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. This week, I just wanted to quickly talk about my weekend at Winton Motor Raceway for the Petters Noble Sprint Round 3. And it was quite an up and down weekend. It started off pretty well. I done heaps of laps and I got a new PB around the circuit, which, I've really starting to enjoy Winton a lot more now. I can't thank Jackson, Rice and Liam Hall enough for all their help and support. And, of course, Bendigo Petters suspension and brakes. You guys always help me out, and I really do appreciate it. But on to tonight's guest. It was my first driver I've had from New Zealand. He is a young, talented rising star who's currently competing in Formula Ford, and he's already achieving really great results. But to find out more, I welcome Blake onto the show. So, hi Blake, can you share with us how you first got into motorsport at such a young age?
My dad, he was actually a drag racer, and he set a couple national records. And I sort of was wandering around the pits at drag racing, like, I want a junior dragster and that sort of thing. When can I hop on one of these? And he's like, you know what? How about a go-kart that get way more seat time, can turn corners, all that sort of thing. And yeah, here I am. I've sort of just from there, just put one foot in front of the other and progressed to where I am now in Formula Ford.
Yeah, obviously, I've had a bit of a look at your page. You look to be doing quite well in the Formula Ford New Zealand. Uh, obviously, for those who might not know, you're actually from the North Island in New Zealand, so it's pretty cool to have you. You're in New Zealand, I'm in Australia right now, so
Mm.
it's pretty cool to have someone overseas on the show. But what inspired you to choose racing as your sport of choice? Because you did say your dad was a dragster, but did something really catch your eye about it?
That's a really good question. I'm not too sure, to be fair. Um, it just I love it, so I just kept on doing that, and we did a couple club days when I was first go karting, and I'm just like, hey, I'm half alright at this, and I just yeah, as I said, put one foot in front of the other, and now here I am.
Yeah, and I guess how did you feel when you won the Winter Formula First series in 2021? Because um, Formula First is I think is it an NZ only category because it's a bit different to what we have over here.
Yeah, it's Formula V, is just rebranded. Yeah, it was a really good thing to win because that was my first ever meeting in an actual race car. From and up until then, it was literally just go karts, nothing else, and that was quite an unexpected win. Unfortunately, I didn't quite have it how I'd like to, just because in the last meeting it was lockdowns from COVID, but only up in Auckland, which is where my championship rivals were. But still, good to have nonetheless.
Yeah. So
Mm.
Formula First, did you join a team and work with them for a few rounds, or did you just go in for one event and
No, we've always been a day and land team, still are to this day. And from there, we were actually at the NZ Grand Prix when we first picked up our car, and on the drive back, Dad sort of was like, "Hey, hold on, we're driving past Taupo, which is where we got our Formula First from," and he saw there was a listing for a Formula First and trade me there, and he's like, "Oh, we may as well stop in and have a look and see what the whole thing's about." And turns out we walked away with a Formula First.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I race Formula V myself, and they're a
Mm,
pretty cool
saw
car.
that.
So I don't know that I feel like they'd go pretty good around some of the New Zealand tracks because you probably don't have as many as what we got in Australia, but from between Hampton Downs, Auckland, or you could probably name a few more.
Pukekohe, that one's
Yeah,
certainly a thrill no matter what you're in. Like the toe there is it's just massive. You can in a Formula V you can hit speeds of about 185 at Pukekohe, and then just sending it into turn one, you're literally foot flat, probably sideways over the bumps and that sort of thing. It's pretty cool.
yeah. I guess we're a bit similar at Phillip Island because we got that long
Mm,
last sweeper, and you come onto the long straight, and then even turn one's flat for us. So yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty cool. And then obviously you said you do take things one step at a time. So finishing sixth in the New South, what am I talking about? you finished sixth in the NZ Formula 4 Championship, which is a great achievement. But what were some key factors that contributed to your success?
Well, to be fair, without blowing my own trumpet a little bit, I think we could have been just a little bit further up that field. Just we had 3 mechanical DNFs and we don't get any races to drop, so that certainly pushed us back the order a little bit. But I think one of the most important things for me has been we've partnered with Callum Crawley, so we're almost a dad and lad team, I'll say that. And he's a past Formula Ford champion, Formula First champion also, and at the moment he's I think I'm not too sure on his career ambitions at the moment, to be fair, but I know he's doing a lot of test driving with car companies and all that sort of thing. And for him, his next step, if he did have that ambition to keep on going, would be to go to Formula Regional. Unfortunately, when he was actually going to compete in that series, he got pushed back a little bit from lockdowns and all that sort of thing. So that was a little bit of a shame for him. But with that past experience and that sort of thing, he really just gave us that extra little bit of knowledge that we needed to get the car across the line where we did.
Yeah, so that's it's always good to have someone good in your pocket. I mean, only recently I actually got a mechanic to help me with my car, so it's good when you've got someone who knows what they're talking about. But can you tell us about the Formula Ford North Island Race Series and what makes it so special in New Zealand grassroots motorsport?
Yeah, I think the best part about Formula Ford is just how analog the cars are. There's no traction control or ABS, let alone anything else. That's just super raw. I forgot what it was specifically, but I was talking to one of my friends about it, and they're just like, "Hold on, you don't have that?" And I'm just like, "Oh, well, now that I think about it, no." And with this North Island Formula Ford Championship, it's really just because it's something that almost all of New Zealand's big-time racing drivers, they've all been through it and all done their cut in Formula Ford.
Yeah, and obviously, you've got some big names from over, New Zealand. Like even Liam Lawson, he came from New Zealand to Australia. He raced Formula V in Australia and then went to Europe. So he's actually doing quite well. So it's good when you've got people like that to represent your country. Because I'm going to admit it. New Zealanders have done quite well in the Formula 1, Formula 2-ish. They've done really well. There's a lot more of New Zealanders than Australians.
Yeah, especially considering the size of the country, they do definitely punch above their weight. I might try and find it now. I've got a photo with Liam Lawson in his first New Zealand Grand Prix. Yeah, I think that was a pretty cool moment, especially seeing him to go on and do all the things that he has done now. Yeah, here we are. This was, I think, 2019. Well, I'll just adjust the brightness. There we are. That's me and Liam at Manfield, which is also my home track for the New Zealand Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Obviously meeting someone like Liam Lawson would be pretty cool, and I at a guess he'd be quite an inspiration to your generation of drivers in New Zealand because of what he's been able to achieve and the fact that he's so close to getting to Formula One. If one person slips up, he could potentially be the next New Zealand driver to be in Formula One after Brendan Hartley, I believe.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good because he's in age quite close to our generation, and everyone sort of just follows in his footsteps in a way.
Yeah, and for someone like yourself, what would be your future goals in racing? Would you want to come over to Australia and race here, or do you just want to see where you go in New Zealand, maybe even overseas?
Yeah, that's been up for debate quite a lot recently, looking at how well some of these drivers in 86s are doing and that sort of thing, especially with the prize money and all that sort of thing that Toyota's come up with for their drivers. To be fair, we've looked at a lot of options, and for the moment, we're just going to stick with Formula Ford in New Zealand before eventually progressing to something like Formula Regional. or Formula Open, which is a new series sort of starting up in New Zealand. And from there, I aim to go onto the road to Indy ran in the USA before chasing my ultimate goal of IndyCar.
Yeah, that's a pretty good goal. IndyCar is definitely one of the pinnacle of motorsports, especially in America. You know, it's got a
Mm,
huge fan base over there. So it'd be great to see someone like yourself competing for wins in the Indy 500.
for sure. It's
And
just about more Kiwis than Americans in uh, IndyCar now. There's a
yeah,
whole lot of them going through there, and the thing I like the most is just the road and the American culture and that sort of thing.
yeah, because one minute you're doing an oval, next minute you're on the road. It's a good
Mm,
variation, almost between. I know it's not really similar to NASCAR, but you got the oval aspect, and then you
mm,
got the Formula One aspect of driving on the road.
mm.
Um, But, you know, obviously you're saying Formula Open's a new category in New Zealand, which it also is in Australia. I do believe it's
All
going to
right.
be, yeah, I do believe it's going to be a bit of an opening because obviously we had Formula 4 try and run and then it got shut down. And Formula 3 is not too popular. So I believe Formula Open is going to be a pretty cool category for most people to race in.
Yeah, for the past few years, Formula Open has been in New Zealand for a while, but it's only sort of been gaining a bit of traction quite recently. In recent years, it's just about being used as a test class for those drivers looking to do the Formula Regional Oceania Championship, or as it was formerly known, the Toyota Racing Series.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's pretty cool. But
Hmm.
what would something like that cost? Because obviously, I know budget's a huge thing for lots of races. So, what would something like Formula Regional cost?
Yeah, Formula Regional, it it's like a lot of other series. It does ultimately depend who you are and all that. So I've heard you can negotiate it down to even below half price if you like really are that driver that teams want to have. Um, I th- the best sort of number I've got is for about 250 to $300,000 for the season.
Yeah,
I
it's
think what's so special about that championship is that it's run in a time that no other categories in the world are running. So that's those 6 weeks in between summer and when it's summer in New Zealand and winter everywhere else.
yeah, cool. So, when's that? Like, what months are that typically in?
I think it's January through to mid-February.
What lessons though have you learned competing as a grassroots at a grassroots level that have helped you shape as a driver? So stuff like Formula First and Formula Ford.
Yeah, I think Formula First is definitely one of the best categories to develop as a driver in and begin your career in a race car because of the racecraft element of it. It it may not have slicks or even semi slicks. We literally run on a road tire, but I think the best thing about it is the racecraft. You can get a really good toe off drivers, and it also goes to a lot of big racetracks in New Zealand, covering the whole North Island.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty cool category. Like I'm even having a look now that the cars do look a little bit different though to what we got here. Is there any reasoning behind that, or just is it a bit of a free for all?
Um, it, it's a category that actually goes quite far back. They were all just about home built. There's a couple bigger manufacturers like Formula Challenge, but they are. It's just about free for all, as you said. Yeah.
Because they definitely look a lot different to the Formula V's we got over here. Um, you know, yours even had a I'm trying to think. They had like a scoop at the top.
Yeah. I think they've just about all got that.
Oh,
My the back the engine cover of our car was inspired from an FT60,
yeah.
and the guy that had it before us, he was actually whoa, 6 foot two, 300 and something kilos. So it's all carbon fiber and that sort of thing. So I had a couple jokes from my mates about how it's underweight and all that sort of thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. And then I show them the 25-kilo block of lead under the seat.
Yeah, I'm running a historic car at the moment, and it's meant to be 1200 cc with the leaf spring rear end, but we converted it to coilover. And when you take the seat out and you have a look under, it's just the floor's covered in lead. It's
Oh, right.
because yeah, I think we're at least 20 under or more, so it was a little bit crazy. So
I
what
heard
are
some of your wet drives have been pretty good. So that's
yeah.
obviously good to see.
Yeah, that comes from go-karting. Dad used to send me out on slicks all the time when it would rain.
All right.
Yeah.
I've seen someone on a test day before over here have literally wets on the front, slicks on the back. Oh, that thing was so sideways, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like because the good thing was I also learned how to deal with the understeer at the same time. So it wasn't just like I
Mm,
had because when you do that, then you've only got heaps of front grip and no rear grip, which is good to learn traction. But
yeah.
I also had to find wet lines and stuff. You got to find the driest point. So if you got slicks on, you're gonna look for the driest point.
Yeah, I found in Formula Ford, speaking of wet driving, the dry and wet line is so much more distinct in a Formula Ford than it
Mm.
is in a Formula First or something like that because they're a semi-slick tire and they come up to racing temperature and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, you make a good point there because in the Formula First or Formula V, they don't really get too hot the tires. So
Mm,
where in a Formula Ford, you're going a lot quicker, and like you said, you got like a semi-slick compound on, so you are going a lot harder on the tires. So yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from. It'd be a huge difference. But you know, motorsport can be an expensive sport to pursue. How have you managed to gather sponsors for your racing?
um, most of it has been through my dad, and I've been helping him out with his business and that sort of thing. I've been sort of doing my best through motorsport. Um, but recently I've really been on that sponsorship hunt because after this Formula Ford season, that sort of thing, we can really have something that we can show and deliver to our sponsors.
Yeah, man. And with that mindset, you're definitely going to get further into the future because, you know, you've definitely got talent from what I can see on your posts and stuff. Because New Zealand's not huge, the people who do race, they're going to be competitive. So for you to be sticking up with them guys in this is your second year of Formula Ford?
Uh, well, I'm coming into my second year. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're doing pretty good, honestly.
thank you.
And yeah, I can't disagree with that. So if you can have one great season, final season, go to your sponsors, you might be able to move to somewhere like Formula Open or Formula Regional, which for you would help your racing career a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I've sort of been looking at the stuff you're doing, and it's just opened my eyes a little bit to what you can provide for a sponsor, especially in a grassroots class that doesn't get a massive amount of media coverage and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, luckily for us, we do have Blendline TV. They stream
Mm,
most of the races on YouTube, so they get about 30,000 watches. So it does help a
that's
little
good.
bit, but if I
Mm,
could get into something like Toyota 86 or something that's on
mm,
Foxtel and KO, that's where you really want
yeah.
to be. You know, how do you prepare yourself mentally for a race? Because I know myself, sometimes you can have a lot of thoughts going on. So how do you sort of sit down, relax, and focus for a race?
Yeah, I've always been quite relaxed in general for a race. I do remember in my go-karting days being so nervous I was just about shaking, but now I've really just calm right down and that sort of thing. I've read a book from a driver coach. I don't know if you'd know him, Enzo Mucci.
No.
Oh, okay. He's Liam Lawson's driver coach, and he put out this book. He's been working on it for 8 years. It's only a recent thing. I think it was released in 2021 or 2022. It's called The Warrior's Mind. It's just a full, like, Bible of mental techniques and that sort of thing you can use to bring yourself into that zone for when you need to perform.
Yeah, that's very good. I'll definitely have a look at that because something like that, it's very important in racing to be mentally prepared because, you know, physicality is obviously a big part of motorsport. If you're physically ready to go, you could have more mental capacity to focus on the race. Then again, you got to be there mentally if you want to win the race.
Yeah.
Have you got any memorable race moments that you really would like to share? A favorite race that you've done that was pretty cool or exciting?
One really cool moment of my motorsport career was being able to share the podium with Greg Murphy at the New Zealand Grand Prix. That was just amazing. I'm like, I can't believe I'm standing here next to this two-time Bathurst winner in the same race, one spot ahead of him. It was just incredible. Another moment would have been in the Winter Series in Formula First when I got my first race win. Because in go-karts, I never actually had a whole lot of time in the wet. And this was my first race win in the wet. And it was my second ever race in the wet in a car. And I don't know, I just went out there and just unbound and just went for it, really. There was no pressure on. And I just cut through the field like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, and it's one of them things, isn't it? But the New Zealand Grand Prix, I'm not super familiar with it, and I'm guessing because most of my fan base are Australian, they probably wouldn't understand as much. So, what is the New Zealand Grand Prix?
So I think the New Zealand Grand Prix is quite a special thing, and it holds its place in motorsport in New Zealand because it's the only Grand Prix other than Macau that isn't a Formula One race, and it's the lowest down, the most accessible formula to get in a race of that sort of caliber. It's also part of the highly regarded Formula Regional Oceania Championship, as I recently mentioned.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a cool race event. Because you've got guys like who you got? You got
Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson, he's done it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of names.
We've even got Lando Norris, Lance Stroll. I think, if I remember correctly, there's 18 Formula One drivers that have been through that series and that race that have, gone on to do Formula One.
Jeez, I had no idea. That's
pretty impressive statistic, eh?
Yeah, it is. You have Ryder Quinn, I believe, as well. Doesn't he race? He's Australian though. He races Aussie racing cars, I believe.
He's doing all sorts of things over there at the moment. He's been Carrera Cup and even partnered with his granddad Tony. 6 Hour Bathurst, I think. Yeah.
So for you to compete in the New Zealand Grand Prix would obviously for you be a dream come true in a way.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just that next stepping stone you need to be able to propel your career off into the likes of the road to Indy.
Yeah, and when you raced, I believe were you also there with Shane Van Gisbergen at the same time?
That was, I think 2 years prior. That was a really impressive drive. On my preparation for racing at Hampton Downs, which I've never done before on the full circuit anyway, I was just watching his video on repeat. I was just in awe of it. He last to first. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, so you did, which one did you do? Which year?
Just this last year, 2023.
Oh, so
and Formula Ford.
So you competed in the 2023 New Zealand Grand Prix?
The race event of the Grand Prix. I should have specified, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, because I was just having a look on a website here about the 2023 one, and I was like looking for your name. Couldn't find it though.
All right.
Yeah, a few Tom McLennan. Who would people know on here? You had a Briton there. You had someone from Austria, Netherlands, Ireland, America, Brazil.
Pretty worldwide.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's just a really good way to get your name out there because, as I mentioned, it's just on when nothing else is, and that's just where everyone's eyes are, where the motorsport is, and when you're the only thing around, that's just what people are watching. And
yeah, no, that's definitely very cool. it'd be something to look out for. Hopefully, make more appearances in the future. And then, yeah, but if you could get to Formula Regional, Formula Open, I honestly think you'd be doing very well for yourself, because then, that leaves you options. But, you did say you wanted to go to America eventually. Do you think you would come to Australia? And if you do, what track would you love to go to?
Well, this is going to
Oh,
be the most basic answer, but
Bathurst.
Bathurst. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, just a place that's got so much history, so many good memories of Australian motorsport and bad ones. Just all in one place. It's pretty incredible, Bathurst. Australia, it's been in discussion, but I'm not all that like keen on heading over at the moment. Quite
That's,
a hard one to sort
yeah,
of gauge out at this point in my career, but
yeah.
well, while I say that, Greg Murphy, he wanted to race open wheelers all his life, and look where he's done.
Mm. Yeah, and he's done a lot. Yeah, Greg Murphy's he's someone you guys can really look up to.
For sure.
Honestly, like, I know my dad, he was a huge Marcus Ambrose fan, so if you talk to him about Greg Murphy, he'll screw his face up. But
Right.
yeah, he's Greg Murphy's definitely someone that you can look to and look up to, because especially that lap of gods he did at Bathurst, that was incredible. No one had ever
Mm.
seen anything like that before. So it goes to prove that people, you guys from such a small country can come over here and show us.
Yeah. You don't want to say it.
Yeah.
How it's done.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But obviously we mentioned before just a little bit sponsorship. Is there any sponsors that you would like to thank that have helped you so far?
In particular, just my dad, NZ Performance. He's been my number one fan all the way through. Other than that, as it stands at the moment, I've got the likes of Civil Train NZ helping me out. I met him at the New Zealand Grand Prix, and he said I reminded him of the likes of Andre Heimgartner, who he's backed before. You might even recognize that logo on his helmet. I'd have to give them a massive shout out, because he's really I can't quite say number one fan again, but he's definitely a massive supporter of mine. And also Ultimate Motor Group, we've always bought our cars off Ultimate Motor Group. Oh, these are road cars, and they've they came on board for the North Island Formula Ford Championship, and I've been backing me since. Yeah,
Yeah, well, obviously, we can't do racing without sponsors, so it's one thing that's very important. But Blake, I would honestly, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure having you, and for someone your age, you speak very well. Obviously, we're probably the same age, but I mean, I've been doing this since I was about 13, so I've had a fair bit of
right.
experience in front of a camera. But I'm not sure about yourself, but you get on the camera, you speak very well, so you should be
Thank
very
you.
proud of
You
yourself.
too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had most of my experience at these events at Super Sprint, with the likes of this New Zealand Grand Prix, and I think it was meeting right after that at Taupo.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've I've always watched interviews and sort of thought about these things. I've watched a couple of videos, but really that's about all the experience I've had in front of a
Yeah.
camera.
And honestly, you do really good, because I know lots of kids out there, their parents pay for them to do media training, because when they get in front of a camera, they just cannot speak. So
Mm,
for someone like yourself just to jump on tonight and do as well as you've done, I can really say that you're doing a good job, man. And
thank you.
from the looks of your results, you're obviously a young talent. So I honestly do wish you the best of support in the near future.
Thank you. You too.
And to anyone who's racing this weekend, remember to drive fast and take chances safely, of course.